Hello, and welcome to another live stream, live coaching. How is everyone doing? Did you sail this week? What is going on in your world? Where are you? Say hi. We got Greg in the chat. Hello, Greg. Una as well. 4 great sessions. Awesome. 4-5 and 4-0. Where was that? Were you sailing around Copenhagen or did you go up to the Klitmøller area? We've got Ragnar in the chat. Leo. Hello. Jorg. Nice. You guys are getting on the water. We got Mario as well. Rasmus. We got a good crew here. Awesome. All right. All right. Let's jump into the Facebook group. You guys know the drill. Interrupt me. We got Ronax. Hello. Axel as well. Matt. Cool. We've got a good chat stacked up. Matt had 5 sessions this week. That's a lot. 4-0, 4-5, 5-0, and 5-5. Whoa. Tomas as well. Everyone's getting on the water. 3 sessions. How is your foot? How's your leg, Tomas? Suna says North Zealand. Awesome. Mark had 4 sessions as well. You guys are getting the wind. Love it. I haven't been on the water. I've just been in Hamburg, getting stuff sorted after Morocco. Looking forward to my next little trip. And then I'll be going to Denmark in September. There still is a little bit of space. There are 2 more spaces for the masterclass that we're doing in Denmark, in Klitmøller, Handstham area. So if you want to join that, you can apply windsurfingmasterclass.com. Okay, so Tomas is saying that it was his hand that was broken, not his legs. Sorry, I remember that wrong. Tavi as well. Hello. 3 days in a row. Wonderful conditions. Cool. Seems like everyone's getting on the water. Love to hear it. First up, we've got Tavi. I'll get the Facebook group loaded up. Since we got Tavi in the chat, let's load up his loop. Boom. Nice loop. So Tavi says in his comment that it looks like a killer loop and he would like it to be more horizontal. Tavi, I think you can be pretty happy with this. I would say it's not really a killer loop. I see what you mean because you are kind of somersaulting, but you're getting a nice horizontal rotation. It's not like the killer loops that the mast really throws forward and you're kind of sheeted out. It could be more horizontal. It for sure could be more horizontal. And the first thing to do if you want to get more horizontal is push that sail to the wind, push it to the windward side before going into that loop. So you push it over to the side, and that will help you get a more horizontal rotation. That's probably the first thing that I do. And there are other things you could do that would help as well, but they're harder to think of in the rotation. Things like wider grip, really looking over that shoulder, really thinking about guiding that back shoulder behind you. But those things are harder to think about in the middle of the loop. Getting that sail into the wind at the beginning of the forward is something that's pretty easy to think about, and it will help you get more horizontal. So if that is something that you want, if you want to get more horizontal, then that would be the first thing that I would work on. You can work on goose screws as well. They're good training for that feeling, that motion. And it's a new trick to learn. You can learn it as a jump, goose screw as a jump going over the waves. But you don't have to worry about these being killer loops. They're definitely not killer loops. But if you bring that mast, sideways into the wind, you're going to get a more horizontal rotation. All right, next up, we got a question from Andre about the best place to train turns, cutbacks. Is it better to choose a place like in this video with slow waves or smaller waves with higher, I'm not sure where this is exactly, but looks very onshore. I think you can train cutbacks pretty much anywhere with waves. You can train turns almost anywhere with waves. The more onshore it is, the more I would recommend starting with backside turns. I think backside turns are a great way to ride waves on a surfboard or a windsurfer. But sometimes with windsurfing, we forget about going backside, and going backside is so much fun. You can do really hard, beautiful carving turns, off the lips, aerials. You can really do everything. And so if you have really onshore conditions, I recommend working on your backside riding. These waves look pretty slopey, and that is going to make it difficult. So they look like they don't have a lot of steepness. So I would say that more steepness is going to be easier to do the turns because you want something that's going to be pushing against you. We've got a really good comment from Mario. He says that whitewater turns are perfect for training cutbacks. And I agree with that 100%. The whitewater is one of the most wasted resources I see. So many times someone rides a wave, the wave breaks, and they're just done with it. But you can do turns on that whitewater, you can do cutbacks, and it's great because you don't have to think about the timing because the whitewater is just there. Whereas if you're trying to time it off the lip, you've got to get that timing down to the millisecond. But if you're riding the whitewater, you can do tons of turns. It really helps you get that transition to the high five position. I would say that's one of the most important things that whitewater can teach you because you don't have to think about the timing. But if that board position is wrong, then the whitewater is going to hit the board in the wrong place and it's not going to transfer speed. Maybe you'll fall or it just won't work. So it's great for getting that transfer, the board transfer. Ride your whitewaters. First or next up is the first of a few reports from the Morocco Masterclass. This one is from Axel, which is awesome. If you're interested in learning about the Windsurfing Masterclass in-person experience, these reports are really worth looking at. Axel, this was his third masterclass, and yeah, it was awesome to see. It was cool. He was still learning and charging. Somewhere, I think it was the fourth day, Axel really had a breakthrough. That would have been, which day was that? That would have been this day. And look at these, just powerful bottom turns, got some powerful off the tops. It was really cool to watch. Boom. We're sailing with camels. What I love to see, like one of the things we're working on with Axel is this little transition. So coming hard carve in the bottom turn and then transitioning up into that cutback. And so this is something that we worked on before this session, moving the sail across the body, coming up into the cutback, which allows this really nice transition from the bottom turn to the cutback. You can see how much speed he keeps, almost like he's even accelerating out of that bottom turn rather than slowing down out of the bottom turn. So I really like that as an example of what we were working on. There's some high fives. Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Next up, we've got a question from Suna. How much does self-confidence influence your windsurfing? The other day, a guy yelled not very nice things at him on the water, and it was not Suna's fault. And it took him time to get back into his rhythm. And on his way home, he realized that his poor sailing was caused by that guy. And then yesterday, he had a miss with the guy that was coming around in the top turn. And he could have yelled something nasty, but that's not his style. And they both apologized. And it was all fine. And it's much better to be kind. I totally agree with that. And I think this is a really interesting topic. And it's a topic that is also really complicated. I've been all of those guys. I've been the guy yelled at and it ruins my session, even though I did nothing wrong. I've been the guy yelling. I've been the guy being nice. And I've also been the guy who someone's been nice to. I've really been in all of these situations. And I think it's really difficult. And I think it's important to try to be nice and educational. And so I used to, if someone didn't know the rules and they dropped in on me, maybe I'd yell at them. And I've really tried to change that and just be educational and talk to someone, come up after them, say, hey, the rules are whatever. The first person on the wave has priority, or whatever the situation is. Try to be educational rather than confrontational. But, I've definitely been confrontational in the past as well. And I think that my explanation for why it's so easy for people to get confrontational and aggressive on the water, because I think it is easier for it to happen on the water than in other places. And it's because we're in a different mindset when we're on the water, and we're in the mindset to hit big lips and go for big jumps, big loops, or whatever it is. It's not the most rational mindset. And so it's difficult to think about those situations rationally. And so you can have compassion as well for the person that's yelling at you, because that means they're also probably amped up, overwhelmed, they're in their animal brain, and it's not like they're a total asshole, though maybe they are. But also it can be that they're just really hyped up in this situation. Uh, but I totally get that it can mess you up. I hate it when people yell at me on the water. Sometimes this happens in different places, and normally it's with people who don't know the rule. So at Hokipa, for example, the rule is that the first person on the wave is the person with priority on the wave. But you get people who come, tourists, who at their home spot have the rule that the person most upwind has the priority. And so they'll catch a wave at Hokipa, more upwind. And I've been on the wave since Japan, and then they'll start yelling and getting aggressive, and because they've heard it's Okipa and, oh, it's all the pros, you've got to be aggressive, they get really aggressive. And I have a hard time with that. That rubs me the wrong way. And I'm trying to be kind in those situations, and trying to get better at it. And sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. But it can really mess me up, in that kind of case with someone. Or another situation is like, sometimes at Hokipa, I'll catch a wave just to go into the beach. And so it's someone else's wave, but I've no intention of riding it. I'm not in their way. I'm upwind of them. I'm just going to go into the beach. But they're worried that I'm going to come down and take their wave. And they start getting aggressive. And I'm like trying to do hand signals and say, I'm not going to take your wave. And so it can be, but then that can be really off putting. Or the situation that I have more that really messes me up more than with windsurfers, because I feel like with windsurfers, there are more explanations, though can definitely happen, but it's more with kiters. Um, I've had a few situations where I've had this in Klitmuller, I've had this at Hokipa, I've had this a lot of places where I've been hit by a kite, like totally their fault. Like a kiter should never hit you. And then the guy's yelling instead of apologizing. And then I'm really angry. So then I'm yelling back. It's getting really aggressive. And then I can't have a good session because I'm just amped up. I'm angry at this kiter. I'm going through all these different scenarios in my head of why the guy is wrong. Like, why are kiters such assholes? Like, just the whole thing. And that definitely messes me up. I think that if you are in that situation and you realize it, focusing on your breathing can be really helpful. Coming into the beach and doing some physical exercises, some push-ups, some jump squats, getting a drink of water can be helpful. Something just to reset the system. Uh, yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the emotions are really important. Something that I found when I was competing is that even though a lot of people like to listen to music in between heats, that I didn't, because it messed up my concentration, it messed up my emotional state. And so even though I enjoy listening to music, it doesn't mix between my windsurfing. But for other windsurfers, they really like that. It gets them in the right place. So everyone's a bit different. But yes, Suna, I think it is really important. And so I think being aware of that is really important. So if you get yelled at, or if you yell at someone, to then bring yourself in, to center yourself, to calm yourself, realize that you've got a trigger and you need to bring it in. I think is important. I think will make you overall have better sessions. Also, just try to be nice. I know it's not always possible, but if someone gets in your way or does something, to just be kind, even if they are totally at fault. Just just wave, just whatever. Let them know. Something that I think is really useful as well is making other people aware of you as soon as possible. So in Hawaii, if someone's on our wave or in our way, or we're about to run them over, we say "hooey." Uh, I do it louder than that, but I'm worried that it's gonna not come across on the speakers because it's so loud. But kind of like a "hooey," and you can do that really loud, and it's a polite, clear way of getting attention. And I think it's really important to do that as early as possible. So if someone gets on your wave, make a sound, and it doesn't have to be an aggressive sound, but some kind of sound to make sure they see you. And maybe they're just going into the beach, maybe they're not going to ride it, but trying to get ahead of those situations is also really beneficial. Uh, yeah, anyway, that's a lot on that topic. I think it's a really good question. Tough one, tough one. All right, we got Rocky in the chat who had a 4-0 day yesterday. Awesome. Christoph at Santa Cruz. Rasmus says that being aggressive can be beneficial, but it's hard to turn off. Yeah, totally agree. Next up, we've got the report from Mario about his experience on the masterclass. So you can read this if you're interested. I love, these are still images from the video, and I absolutely love them. One of the big takeaways from the masterclass was that it's really important to judge your success not on how many times you don't fall on a wave, but how many times you go for it. And when you go for it, it doesn't matter if you fall or whether you make it, but that is the success. So success is going for it, going for those sections, hitting those lips. And Mario really embodied that in these sessions. I love this picture. This is still from the video, and you can see that he's a little late for the section, but he's just going for it, getting the board in the high five position. So judge your success from not from the amount of times you don't fall, but from the times that you go for it. So in wave riding, judge your success not by how many times you don't fall, but by how many times you go for it. And that might sound a little confusing, but I know that you guys who are riding waves know what I mean. There are a lot of times where we see that section, you don't hit it. Count hitting it as a success, whether you make it or not. And we've got another long post about an experience on the Morocco Masterclass. This one is from Joe. And this is really in depth. He talks about what his goals were, what his expectations were, what the accommodation was like, what prices were like. You know, he goes through a lot. So again, if you're interested about coming on one of these masterclasses, reading these reports from Mario, Axel, and Joe are really insightful. We've got Bart in the chat. Yeah, Morocco was awesome. All right, next up, we've got this loop from Matt. So has been working on the loops for a few years. And this is an awesome one. I was a little bit worried, Matt, that you hurt yourself on this because your head hits the sail here. Bonk. And I hope that wasn't painful. Matt, I know that you're going for forward loops, but this is full cheese. And that's not a bad thing. And so my advice is to embrace the cheese, embrace the cheese roll, go full cheese. So why is it full cheese? So one of the reasons that it ends up cheesy rather than forwardy is because you're really throwing your body hard forward. You're throwing it so far hard forward that the head hits the sail. And it's a full loop. I mean, you're pretty much just push the sail out and water start position. So you're making it. So how do you embrace the cheese? So one way to embrace the cheese is you want to make sure that you're looking behind you. That's important in whatever kind of loop you're doing. It's going to help. And so right now you're looking forward the whole time. So getting that head looking back, it's like here, you're still looking forward, still looking forward, still looking forward. Getting that head looking back is going to make a big difference. That looking back over the shoulder really, really helps. And you can do it from the beginning. You can do it from here. You can do it from here. And then really think of bringing the sail back towards the tail of the board. So you're still sheeting it hard and pushing forward the front hand, but you're bringing that sail back rather than forward towards the nose of the board. You're bringing it back towards the tail, and you're looking over that shoulder. So doing everything the same as you're doing, except really hard looking over that back shoulder, like really hard. And you're bringing that sail a little bit more into your shins, bringing the sail more into your shins, and that will help embrace the cheese. You'll get a little bit more rotation, land on your back, and sail away. But it's a good loop. It's a good cheese roll. So I would keep going. If you're looking for encouragement, keep going and embrace the cheese. Embrace the cheese. Hey, Barrick in the chat. I think with forward loops, this is the same with back loops as well. So for forward loops, some people end up doing more of a killer loop at first, and some people end up doing more of a cheese roll at first. If you're doing more of a cheese roll, embrace the cheese, go full cheese roll. If you're doing more of the killer loop, learn the goose screw method, come into a horizontal loop. With back rotation, some people end up doing more of a push loop right off the bat, and some people end up doing more of a back loop. If you are trying back loops, but you're doing more of a push loop, just embrace the push loop and go for it. I think that's safer and it will come more naturally. And so with the forward rotation, it's either cheese or horizontal / killer loop start. And the back rotation, it's either back loop or push loop. All right, next up, we've got some more loops. So Nick was on our Learn to Loop course, online course, and these loops, I've seen Nick's loop journey, and you might see these and you think, oh, that's not very much, but doing flat water forward loops on a 5-5 is a huge accomplishment. Huge accomplishment. So what I always say is that you need either height or technique. So if you want to do loops on flat water with a big sail, you need your technique. And that's exactly what we see here. So no ramps, 5-5, flat water, and Nick is landing loops, means he's got the technique. So if you're working on the loops, it's either technique or height. So the height allows you to have less good technique because you've got more room to do everything. But yeah, awesome. All right, we already talked about this post from Ragnar. And like that, we're all caught up. So if you want to join our masterclass in Denmark, it is happening in September. You can apply on windsurfingmasterclass.com. There are 2 spots left. And yep, you can apply. It's on the schedule section of the Windsurfing Masterclass website. A few big takeaways from the live stream today. One is that your attitude, your confidence, your emotional state really matters a lot. So if you find yourself in a poor emotional state, maybe because someone yelled at you, try to reset. Also, remember that we're all emotional out on the water. The mindset to hit lips is not the same mindset to be diplomatic and kind. So it means that you've got to really try to be kind on the water and also be more forgiving of others as well. And then if you're working on the forward loops and you're going cheesy, embrace the cheese and go full cheese. With that, I will see you next week, Sunday. Have a good, wonderful, windy week. I hope you get in the water. Post in the Facebook group. I want to hear about your sessions, your struggles, your successes, and everything in between. I'll see you next week, Sunday. Take care and have a good windy week. Bye bye.